is Tarik Talk. Your host, Tarik Mendez, takes you on a journey with guests from all around the world. Broadcasting around the world. Around the world. This is Tarik Talk.
Alright guys, today this is an episode of Tarik Talk. I'm here in Belgium, in Brussels, with the very talented Adrien and Lucca. How are you, Adrien?
Good.
Good. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. We're right now inside of the studio. I'm so honored and thrilled to be here today. Do you want to start by telling us your website and Instagram so everybody listening can look at your work?
Yeah, so my website is basically my name, so Adrien Lucca with 2 C's, so lucca.net. And my Instagram is the same, Adrien Lucca. And I also have another account which is a bit more clean, Studio Adrien Lucca.
Thank you so much for spelling. I was actually going to ask you to do that. Do you want to, there's so much work and you gave me a quick preview. It's so complex and it's like beyond the work. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the work you're working on right now?
Well, yeah, so right now I'm working on several proposals because a big part of my practice is to do like monumental art. So I'm currently like working on some glass samples here, and I'm working like on kind of big rose window-like structure that will be floating in a building. However, I'm waiting for like the approval of the commission, so I'm still not sure of the outcome.
Yeah.
And also something else, I'm preparing an exhibition at the Natural History Museum here in Brussels, because I've been studying the vision of a moth, a nocturnal insect that pollinates flowers at night. And that moth sees colors at night when we don't see anything because there's very, very little light. And it also sees colors differently. So it has it's basically blind to red. So what we see as red for this insect is either very dark green or even black. But it also has sensitivity to UV that we don't see. And for that animal, UV, there's a specific color in there. So I've been reading a lot of biology around this insect. The name of the insect is the elephant hope moth, and it's actually a famous insect in biological literature for its exceptional vision at night. And since I'm an artist mostly working around color and light, I'm trying to understand also what color and light means beyond human vision, because part of what we can say is light is invisible to us, like infrared, ultraviolet. We don't see that, but some animals do. And also we tend to believe that human vision is so powerful and accurate, but there are many things in fact that we don't see, and we're not even aware of this. So as someone who works on color, who's very well informed about color science, color theory, color in art, colored materials, everything like that, I'm also trying to criticize this human-centric perspective, and to find a way to do something that somehow makes these invisible worlds perceptible for us. Because I think we don't really, at least in our Western whatever world, capitalist world, contemporary context, because for some other humans it may make more sense than for us, but we are not very aware of how the animals perceive us. How do they inhabit the same space as us, and what we are doing to them with light, for example.
I actually never thought about to that extent. That's really fascinating. Do you want to go back and tell us how you first got into art?
Oh yeah, so so I entered applied art school when I was 14.
Okay.
So where we were doing drawing, design, architecture, textile, fashion design. That was actually a very good school, so I was very lucky to get there. It completely changed my life. I was very sad at school before, and suddenly I found that place and I didn't want to leave. I said I want to study.
Yeah.
So this period between 14 and 17, I discovered like drawing, art history, contemporary art. I started reading books. I was really not into reading books before. And I was also making music, electronic music at the time on my computer. That was like a big part of my practice at the time, and my dream was to become a music composer. But well, at some point I graduated that, and then I went to fashion design actually in Paris, which was not really my thing, so I quit. Then I went to like a fine art school, which in France also, which was like also a bit disappointing. So I did a break. I also stopped the music because I thought I'm more into the visual art things. And I have always had an interest for science, so I started reading a lot of books about science, and at the same time I wanted to, for some personal reasons, my life was a bit complicated in the suburbs of Paris and in Paris where I was living, and I decided to move here in Brussels and to restart everything from the beginning. So I went to a school called École de Recherche Graphique, which means like graphical research school, which sounded very interesting to me. And so I studied 5 years there, and then 2 years in the Netherlands in a postgraduate place called us.We. And at the same time, I also started to collaborate with scientists. Went to a science school also in France, where I studied color theory. And and then I came back to Brussels, became a color teacher here in the national school. And for a few years I was very poor and working in a very small space with like meticulous drawings that were taking months to do. And at some point I got like a very big contract. My life changed in 2015. So then I started a company. The project became like a monumental installation in Montreal in Canada with glass. And since that point I always worked in parallel on like research that I kind of self-finance through like big public commissions that I do that a lot. And also I work with a gallery here in Brussels called LMNO, and they also support me somehow, sometimes with production, or like we do projects together, and we kind of grow together because it's a young gallery and I'm still a little bit of a young artist.
Oh, you're very young, I'm a very young asset, so
so so that's also like an important part of the current way I work. And I also collaborate with other, like for example with a non-profit here called Gluon, which is doing like art and science projects, and we are working together on that insect project for 2 years now.
And how did you get into like the insects, like studying them?
So yeah, that's a good question. So because I have this interest for color, I started collecting pigments because for me they're like the primary material of color somehow, at least on paper or in painting. And so I started collecting these around 2009 or 2010, and so maybe I have one of the biggest collections in Brussels for that. Like I have a lot of dry pigments. And at some point I wanted to really understand what are the limits of the colors of the synthetic pigments made by human beings, right? I don't use so much natural pigments. I'm more interested somehow by synthetic materials. And I found out that a lot of colors are duplicates, and you have different chemical molecules, but it's the same yellow. And especially when I start to play with the spectrum of light on them, I can tell they react in the same way. So I was thinking that probably the reason why most pigments look the same is because they are selected by human beings under sunlight, with also like a kind of marketing team that would say that one's ugly, we're never gonna sell it, so we're not producing that in the factory. But another one, yeah, that's like bright purple, this is cool, like let's do that. But this is not how I work, because for example, like bright purple for me, I can change the light and transform it into blue or into red. So what interests me are the spectral property of the pigment, like how it absorbs and reflects light, and how this creates the color that we see. And since it's not easy to ask a factory to do some kind of very special product, I thought I'm gonna check the flowers, because the colors of the flowers are selected not by human chemists, but by pollinators. And pollinators, they have a different spectral, visual sensitivity to light. And so I thought probably the flowers are very biased, but in a different way. So maybe I will find cool accidents in the flower that I cannot find in the synthetic world.
That's amazing. And I mean, I played once with pigments just for fun. Like, how are you? Because it seems like a very messy process. No, like, how are you able to like?
Yeah, so I have this small lab in another room here, and in this lab is a mess because pigments are dirty, and also they can be toxic and everything. So I always use a mask. I wash my hands like a surgeon when I work with this. But I also use very small quantities. I have this like very high precision scale and things. So it depends. Like if I have to do like 10 liters of paint from dry pigment, then probably it's gonna be a mess. But if I just have to do like a small sample, usually I can do. I can stay kind of clean.
And how do ideas come to you? Like, do they come to you in the daytime, in the nighttime? Like, do you have to think for them, or just come to you like spontaneously?
That depends really, because I would say that I have had already a lot of ideas. So a lot of these ideas are also kind of stored in memory. The ideas come from different situations. Like I love visiting museums, especially classical old painting art museums, and also architecture. I'm also an observator of light and color in nature, and I read scientific books a lot, and so all these things kind of interconnect. And also I have a background of like a kind of maker. My father was a craftsman for wood, so I grew up also making stuff, like cutting wood.
So you have like the muscle memory in your hands.
Yeah, a little bit. And so, so it all comes from a kind of constellation of things, and so within that, somehow the ideas come very easily. But it's very hard to have a good idea. Or maybe it's very easy to have a good idea, but a good idea that you can create something with is a different problem than just having an idea.
And do you write everything down? Because you said you keep everything in your memory. Like, are you able to like retract old memories and bring them to life, or do you have to write down like every little detail of your ideas?
Well, I write a lot, so I have a bunch of notebooks from the last 20 years, but I don't read them that much actually. I remember once Björk, the singer, in an interview, she said that her relations with her ideas would be, okay, I got an idea and I'm gonna keep it like for as long as it takes to forget it. If I don't forget it, then maybe that's a good idea or something. And so I kind of identify with this process. I think that, I mean, the ideas, they select themselves and sometimes they come back. Weird things happen also, like I would read a book and forget about it, then think it's my idea, but it's actually coming from the book.
I like that. And do you ever like reference your old ideas? Like if you're maybe like having a creative block, you go back to your notebooks and like try to find something you can use?
Yeah, sometimes I do that, but usually I'm very busy currently with the things I'm doing right now. So I think the balance changed a little bit also. Like at some moment, maybe 10-15 years ago, I was very much into a kind of open research. I also didn't really know what to do, in fact. And today I have like a very well-defined research, like several of them. And I also have like responsibilities, like deadlines, I have to organize production. So it works a bit differently now.
Yeah. And how are you able to like, because I interview a lot of artists and this is like always the number one problem they always talk about, is like managing the business side and the creative side. So a lot of artists say like each day they can only do one task, so they can't do both in one day. But you seem to have like master the perfect routine. Like how are you able to combine both? Do you like secure one day for a business part of your like work and then another day? Or you kind of like fuse both of them together?
I really don't make any difference. So I remember I made a diagram like 3 years ago or something for a lecture somewhere, and I called it like I wanted to define my own economy, and so I called it like dream economy, which sounds a bit stupid.
No, it sounds cool.
But in fact it was like, okay, so I have dreams, right? And so how do I make these dreams come true? Right? So then I try to find opportunities to get like projects or scholarships or like basically money. But I don't want to make money with something that I don't like, so it should be related to these dreams. And so it took some time, but now it kind of works. And then with that money I do scientific and artistic research. That research allowed me to develop some kind of magic powers. And the magic powers, they feed the dreams. And so that turns around like this. And so far it works. It's been a bit more than 10 years that it works like that. So
that sounds like the perfect ecosystem. You should patent it.
Yeah, it's just I probably work too much, but it's okay, I like it, so.
And how's your creative process? Like when you come to your studio, do you get to work right away? Do you have to like have a coffee, meditate, or how does it work?
I drink a lot of coffee and I smoke. A lot of time I spend just like coding, because everything I do is also based on code. And I reached a point where I actually think in code, because like many of the things that I do, like LEDs, colors, I always have an instrument to acquire physical data. So I can also simulate a lot of ideas. But it depends. For example, with glass, then I prefer to just go to a glass factory and look at everything. So this is also something I do. I mean, I'm not only working here in my studio. In my studio here, it's mostly like coding, pigments, because with pigment I can do drawings, small things. The 3D printer, I have like CNC digital fabrication machines in my other studio. So whenever I need to think in material form, I would use these machines. But I also spend a lot of time on internet, like searching for what technologies actually exist, what new materials I may order a sample of to make something completely new. And also, whenever I have a big project, then I try to work directly with like the companies, the craftsmen, the engineers, trying to understand how they work and how I can like implement my own methodology in their factory, something like that. This is something that I enjoy very much. So I did that with like a painting company in the Netherlands. I did that with an LED company in Canada, with two different traditional stained glass companies also. This is very nice because somehow I developed a methodology with my pigments that I can apply on glass, on printing, on coating making, and so the work is becoming more and more collaborative somehow. It started like a pure nerdy thing, but now I'm opening up to the world or something like that. It's actually in the botanic.
Oh, botanic, that's it.
Yeah, so it's a art/music institution in Brussels.
Okay.
So yeah, so these lamps, these are like lamps that I make, right? So these are like I call this like a light synthesizer. So it's closed now, so you cannot really see what's inside, but actually there's a damaged one here. So we can look at it. So this is what's under the cover here. And so there's like a bunch of LEDs of different colors. There are 9 different colors here. And there are also like controllers, so it's also kind of small computer, this thing. And with that I can modulate the composition of the spectrum of light. The magic trick I do with this is that, for example, I can change the color of an object without changing the appearance of the light. So you arrive in a room, the light is white, the object is yellow, say, and it will turn like extremely red. But you don't see, it's caused by the light, but there's no way of telling that the light did this because the light didn't change at all in terms of visual appearance.
Yeah.
And so I use this in monumental installations or immersive installations. I used it with drawings, with sculptures, with plants also, because I do installations with actual living flowers as well. There's one at the moment in Lisbon, in the Architecture Triennale of Lisbon, until the 4th of January, I think.
Okay.
And so I can use this thing to modify, to fluctuate the color of the world in front of you. So it looks a bit like a kind of Photoshop filter or Instagram filter, but there's no screen, it's right here in front of you. And this is the cool part of this. And so now I'm going to install those in a building called the Botanic in Brussels, in the lobby.
Okay.
So right now they are like an outdated, obsolete kind of light there. And instead of like calling an LED company, they proposed, like we imagined together that I will do this for them, and it's going to stay there for 5 to 7 years, something like that. And so I will have the lobby will be somehow kind of under my control.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the light will be like very natural, because this can also simulate a very high quality sunlight. But they can also twist the composition of this light, and then, for example, people going there for a concert or coming out of the concert, they will have their own clothes changing, the color of their skin changing. The plants also that are in the lobby can become brown or super green.
And can you do that from here, or do you have to be in person there to change it?
So there will be like a pre-coded controller over there, but I want to implement a platform to be able also
Like a
to control
transmitter,
it for
that would be
here.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, because it can pass through the internet and I can control that.
So when you
from a distance.
mention coding,
Yes.
that's when you decide what colors is going to come out.
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
this is actually a yeah, but I also code paints, for
Oh, I
example,
see.
pigments, like everything is basically digitalized,
Yeah.
and I use like science, physical formulas for the painting,
Yeah.
and also something called like color science or colorimetry,
Okay.
which is a technique to evaluate. For example, I have a certain light spectrum. You want to know, it's cool to have the light spectrum, but actually what color is this?
Yeah.
You can calculate this because some some people in the 20th century have done the work of measuring the human visual organs, and we can code light and know what color it will make.
That's so
And
cool.
this is very useful for a machine. I guess.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And so this is really a little bit like a piano
Yeah.
with like 9 different notes, and I can combine these things, and I can control like how intensities, what global color it has, and also what effect it has on pigments and colors.
So like a musical composer, as you previously
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So somehow.
it goes back to that.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm not familiar with coding, but I love hearing about it. To me, it sounds so difficult. Like my brain almost like malfunctions a little bit. Because people that are like coding, you guys talk about it with such a simplicity. Because you know what you're doing, but like I feel like the rest of us are like, huh?
Yeah.
But it's
Well,
really-
it's a little bit like like you know how to use a calculator, right?
Yeah.
So it's not very different, in fact.
Yeah.
It's like you want to make a calculation, you have to press plus and equal at some point. So coding is basically something that does that for you, but like a million times per second, because there's things you want to know very precisely or in a sequence, and of course you can describe like a complex situation in logical terms. So yeah, that's what code does. You can do everything by hand, but some of the things you do with code may take 1 year to do by hand,
Yeah.
and just 1 second with the code.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And if you like to do a dream project and not have to worry about budget or
Yeah.
like the financing of it,
Uh-huh.
do you have anything in mind?
I really want to. Well, okay. So how can I explain that? So I'm not religious at all. Not any religion. I don't believe any kind of God thing. But I really love religious architecture. And so one of the things that were in my country, which is huge, is the stained glass in the medieval churches or cathedrals. And I actually did apply several times for such projects and never got it. But this is actually my dream project, to make an entire installation of stained glass in a church, because I have a lot of ideas about this. I think they are a very interesting way to, even for like I'm a non-believer, but it doesn't mean I don't have a sensitivity to like spirituality or to associate emotional events and things that happen in the life, like destiny and stuff like that, with the beauty of a material, the way the light interacts with the material. And so I actually have a lot of ideas about this.
That's so cool. I can imagine like your glass work and then your light will be like.
Yeah, because like what's magical in these buildings is that the light source is actually the natural light, so it's changing all the time. The angle is changing, the height, the color, the intensity, the weather, and there's some types of glass that are highly sensitive to any such changes. So I can actually have this windows that will have a certain appearance at one moment. When the sun starts shining on it, completely different pattern appears, the colors are changing.
Yeah.
So a little bit the same kind of thing I'm doing with that in a very synthetic way. Can also be done in a very natural way. It's just like glass and sunlight and sky and an architecture, of course.
Are you able? I mean, this is just like a crazy idea from me, like speaking with you. But is it possible to like grab like your work on glass and then put this somehow in the middle, so you're always in control of like what light shines through, regardless of outdoor light?
You mean with glass?
Yeah, like if you put like this between the glass, like you can always change no matter what's.
Yeah, of course it's possible. I'm not sure how interesting it would be. There's probably some ways it can be interesting, but actually this is like just a very diffuse source of light. So it really pretty much looks like a light like this, just like lighting the room. And so even just holding the glass, because the glass will also change color with this, that's very interesting because in some cases, for example, changing the spectrum of light can also, for example, turn a very transparent glass into an opaque glass. That's really like magical, like what's going on. Like how come like something becomes transparent or blocks my vision? It looks like it's spontaneously, of course it's not. I'm tuning, I'm playing behind, but So I think it's even more interesting to see the relation between LED light and glass to try to just present it in a very common, usual setup, because this is also probably where it will be the most surprising also, right? These things that can be done by tuning the spectrum of light are very much counterintuitive. So it's very interesting to see the reaction of someone that has never experienced color changing or visual change like that. This is also what I do with plants. Like plant normally green, right? But now it's like dark brown, and the flowers are like much more chromatic. So these are I'm trying also to, how can I say that without talking too long, but I think I'm trying to, on one hand, like, give meaning to these experiments. So for example, with the plants, I'm doing with scientists now a research on the vision of the moth, and so we can somehow compute the colors that the moth is seeing, compute the contrast and this kind of thing. Even though we don't see the same colors, we have values, we have numbers, and we can also like convert this into human vision somehow by using false colors. And so one of the things the piece in Lisbon with the plants, what I did is that I used LED to reproduce these colors that we have computed that correspond to the moth's vision. I use LED to reproduce these colors on the plants. So the plants look like our simulation of the moth's vision. And so that's what I mean when I say I'm trying to give meaning to these things. Because of course it's very cool to be able to change the colors and everything, but I think that when it actually starts to correspond to something real that we normally don't experience because we're humans, and this is basically an invisible color experience for us. To be able to translate that invisible thing into something that is visible for us and meaningful, because it is very interesting to see like a moth. Then I think it's even beyond the just nerdy play and understanding the science, and it's not a demonstration. It becomes like it becomes a tool to see the world differently, to think,
Absolutely.
and to become aware eventually that whatever we do with light in cities, all these LEDs that we put everywhere, they actually do look very differently to the other animals, and they have an impact that we have no idea about. So, for example, like most white LEDs, for the mouse, they completely destroy the communication between the flowers and the insects, because the flowers, they use colors to attract, to be sexy, to be attractive. The insect, they have very blurry vision. But if there are a lot of colors somewhere, they know.
They know they're far.
Yes. They also use scent, but so the two most important senses is the scent and the vision. And even the scent is not very localized. So anyway, when they get closer to the flowers, they need to see them to get there and to eat, to drink nectar. And LED light, which looks very natural to us, it actually doesn't emit ultraviolet. And ultraviolet we don't see ultraviolet, but for the mouse, ultraviolet is an essential component of color vision. It's a primary color. If you remove the primary color, then you don't see the colors in the same way anymore. We are basically making these mouse colorblind. By the light that we're shining at night.
One thing about your work that I really liked is it made me question. First, I didn't know a lot, as you said, like the moth and art affects us humans and animals and plants. But it also made me look within and think well, how much don't I know? Because these things you think, because I feel like a capitalist society, you kind of live a life I'll believe it if I see it. And if you don't see it, you don't believe or think about it. But it just made me question oh my goodness, we're really an invading species to these bugs in a way, to the insects.
Yeah.
When people go to your exhibitions, do you like to hear what they think about your work or how they interact, or you just kind of like to see them observe from afar? Do you like to hear their point of view?
Well, it depends if they want me to talk on Because I really enjoy, obviously this is what I'm doing right now, I really enjoy talking about my work. I also do a lot of lectures. I was an educator for 13 years in the art school nearby. So I do have a lot of things to say. And I also really like to just, as you suggested, stay silent, see if something's happening, because of course if I reveal the whole thing in advance, then people don't have anything to discover anymore. So it's very interesting to see if a work actually functions. To just even pretend I'm in the public or something.
You're like a spy of the art.
So I do that too, of course. It's part of the game.
That's fabulous. I love that.
Thank you for listening to Tarik Talk. Follow Tarik Talk on all social media channels and check out the video interviews online.